Hey guys, it's been a while, but I think today's video is going to be a really fun one. In today's video, I'm going to explain how to win the war against Rumburg. Technically, there are multiple ways to win, but in this video, I'll go over the most effective way to win the war, which follows Iosef's plan. Winning the war takes a lot of setup and involves many geopolitical considerations. To lay out how to win the war best, I'll be splitting the guide into 5 main parts. First is the early game setup, then diplomacy and alliances, nuke prevention, triggering the war, and the war meeting phase. After these 5 main sections, I'll go over the final checklist to make sure everything you need to win is clear. First, we'll go over the early game setup. This stuff isn't all directly related to the war, but it's essential for making sure that you can win later on. For the prologue, I picked medium resources for moderate difficulty. You can choose any mode if you want for more or less of a challenge. I picked a degree in history so I'd have an easier time with diplomacy, and I avoided political organization so I wouldn't start the game with any biases against me. I promised to uphold our nation's values so we can focus on the war over constitutional reforms. For the other choices in the prologue, you can just choose whatever feels best, as they don't really matter much overall. As I said before, we're going to follow Iosef as our main military advisor since he has the highest likely chance of winning the war, so make sure to commit to his plans for military decisions. When it comes to choosing what to increase your budget on, make sure you increase the military. I'd also recommend making sure to try and keep a balanced budget overall so you don't fall into any sort of debt crisis. You will also be given the choice to modernize your military. Make sure to do this and to either modernize the army or air force while ignoring the navy. Iosef and Lilia's graph will confront you about the gendarmerie. When this happens, make sure to keep it under military control. The last couple of early game setups are to invest in the military industry when given the option, to abolish conscription to keep a more professional army, as this will be better on later in the game, and to build a railway if you decide to ally with the Western Bloc, which is what I will recommend for this video. For section 2, we'll go over diplomacy and alliances. So there are two main optimal pairs of alliances to choose when deciding to fight Rumburg. Either you can choose Agnolia and Lespia, which is the Western option, which is also the most consistent path to win, or you can pick Welland and Valksland, the Eastern option, which still works but can be trickier to pull off. So for this, I would recommend going Agnolia and Lespia. The key thing to remember for these alliances is that you want one strong military power, so either Lespia or Valksland, and one weaker but geographically close ally, so that's either Agnolia or Welland. Another thing to keep in mind is that you have to make two allies, but you shouldn't join a superpower bloc like the ATO or CSP. This is going to go in later about avoiding nuclear war, because if you join one of those, nuclear war is going to happen and you can't actually win the war. Also, try not to mix policy signals. So, for example, don't choose a Western and Eastern ally at the same time, as doing so makes allying a lot less simple. If you do avoid the policy signals, it just makes everything easier to achieve. Lastly, try to appear as peaceful in your international actions as possible because it will earn you credit from the international community and Alliance of Nations later on in the game. But before we move on to nuke prevention, I want to give some more specific tips for ally building. If you're trying to ally with Agnolia, make sure to be friendly, handshake or hug the Prime Minister, and give him the steel gift. Also, make sure not to comment on the protests happening outside. For Lespia during the trade deal, just make sure to completely avoid Welland deals and go in with a free market economy that doesn't nationalize your major companies. This is because Lespia is mainly focused on running a similar government style to you and having a similar economy. So as long as you fulfill those things, it will be a lot easier to get an allyship from Lespia. If you choose to ally with Welland, you'll have to fully join Operation Bear Trap and also satisfy your own bloodish population to make sure they're actually there. So if I'm being honest, balancing Welland as an ally while also having to appeal to your own bloodish population is pretty difficult to do, which is why I would recommend going for Agnolia and Lespia for your allies of war. But if you do choose to go with Welland and then you also have to go for Valksland, make sure to avoid Western aid and to be friendly to socialist and leftist policies, mostly because Hegel will see you as more trustworthy and more likely to make an alliance with you. Also, just to keep in mind for Valksland and Agnolia, whichever you choose to ally with, remember to also take their side on the Hedgeland conflict. Okay, now we'll move on to the nuke prevention section. So for this section, preventing a nuclear scenario isn't too hard to do, but it's also critical for winning the war. One thing that you'll want to make sure to do is to accept the Rumburg whistleblower, which will give you the information about the nukes. Also, with this information, make sure to reveal it at the Alliance of Nations meetings. This will give you more national support and make sure there is no nuclear war. These two steps will disable the enemy nuclear strike option, but if you forget to do them, the game will be over. So like I said, it's super important to remember this. That's a pretty quick section, but for the next one, we'll actually be covering how to trigger the war. So to trigger the war, initially at the start of the game, when the plane crisis event happens, either choose to retaliate or to declare war outright. In interviews, make sure to use language that appears strong, expect a war, and also avoid peace talks. Last, and also similar to nuclear prevention, refuse superpower aid to prevent a global nuclear crisis. That's also a pretty short section, but for the final section, I'll cover the actual war strategy. So for the actual war strategy and the war meeting, there are two phases against the final battle in Rumburg. The first phase, you'll want to capture Sarsborough. So to do this, you'll want to choose the pincer attack. You'll order your stronger ally, which is either Lespia or Valgsland, to support your pincer. And then you'll order your second ally, so either Agnolia or Welland, to attack Dome, creating a second front. The second phase is to strike Thornborough, the capital of Rumburg. For this, you select the rush capital option and order your strongest ally to protect your flanks. And then you'll also order your other ally to keep pressure on Dome and advance as needed. In the off chance you only have one ally, you want to choose the option that directly supports you. So all of this should be enough to win the war, and you can finally take down Rumburg once and for all. I actually hate Rumburg. They're so annoying, so winning the war against them is always fun. But just to make sure you guys have everything clear, I'll show you a checklist to recap the decisions you'll need to make to win. So for the win condition checklist, just to read it off, first is to make sure you fund the military, remove conscription, expand the military industry, make at least 2 allies, one being strong, one being a more geographically close one, accept the Rumburg whistleblower, do not join the superpower bloc, reveal the nukes at the Alliance of Nations meeting, execute the pincer attack during the war, after that, rush the capital, call your allies into war, and if you do all these things, you're basically guaranteed to win against Rumburg. And with that, this video is coming to an end. Pretty simple overall, but I did want to say thank you guys so much for the support on the channel just generally. It's been a long time since I've been back, but I could have never expected so much success, and I'm also just super happy to have such a nice audience, so much engagement in the comments. I really appreciate it. The last video got more than 60,000 views, which is actually just insane for me to think about. And I also do, because of that, want to apologize for being gone for so long. I've been super busy with college. I took a bit of a break from YouTube and also just a break from Suzerain. But again, I just want to thank you guys for all the support and also say that after receiving all the comments, I will never pronounce Palais as Pales ever again. I probably got like 100 comments saying that, and it is definitely my mistake. I don't know why I kept doing that in the video. But anyway, guys, I hope this guide was helpful to you. Make sure to like the video if you liked it. Subscribe if you want some more Suzerain content on your homepage. And also make sure to comment. I do take time to read literally every single comment, so I will see it. If you have any questions, I can try to help answer it. Also, just one little note, I used 3 main sources for this video. One was a Reddit page, one was a Steam community post, and the other was a article from the Neoseekers website. These all helped me a lot in making this guide, along with just playing the game on my own, obviously. So thanks to them. I'll leave those in the description. And thank you guys so much for watching this video. Like I said, like it if you like it. And thank you so much for watching.